Hi, guys. Welcome to our daily encounter. As we get to the end of the book of Judges, in chapters 17 through 21, we should understand that these chapters aren't necessarily chronological to the first 16 chapters of the book of Judges. One indicator of that is what we find in chapter 18 with the people from Dan trying to still acquire their land that was already allotted to them back in Joshua chapter 19. But what these chapters do is they show us some things about the condition of Israel at this particular time in their history. In chapters 17 and 18, we see the religious decline of the people. In chapter 19, we see the moral decline of the people. And then chapters 20 and 21, the national decline of the people. And this is typically how it works out within a particular nation. First, there's this religious decline, which leads to a moral decline among people. And then once the morality is undermined in a nation, then the nation itself suffers, and everyone suffers with that. But this is what we see with the nation of Israel. And in chapters 17 and 18 in our reading today, we find this religious decline. And this man, Micah, becomes somewhat of a symbol of this religious decline among Israel. And it's interesting what he does. He constructs like a miniature Israel, but with false gods. With his 200 pieces of silver, he makes a graven image, a molten image, and he makes these household idols. He has these household idols that he builds a shrine for. And then he consecrates his sons to be priests, and he even makes an ephod. And he even hires a Levite priest to serve him as a priest. And so he's basically constructing within his own house this tabernacle-like structure with these gods, with this priesthood, with the ephods. He's basically imitating God and imitating what God had constructed and instituted with the people of Israel. And so this is a grievous thing against the Lord that Micah is doing. But chapter 18 shows us what happens when we try to replace God and when we try to replace the structures that he has in place. In chapter 18, you have the people from Dan going to this area to kind of spy it out, and they notice this guy Micah, and he has this ephod, and they inquire whether they should take over the land, and sure enough, they find out that they probably should take over the land. So when they come back through with these 600 men, and they actually go into Micah's home and steals his molten image, his household idols, the image that he created, and the ephod, and they actually steal all these things from Micah. And then not only that, they convince his Levite priest to follow them and become their priest. And then when Micah tries to take these things back, he himself shows himself to be powerless. Discovers that, he can't take them back. He can't overpower these 600 men. And so he turns around and goes home. So this shows us at least three things that we learn that happens when we try to replace God in our lives. When we try to replace God with idols, that is things that we put either equal to God or above God in our lives by loving them or trusting them more than God, we find that these idols really possess no power whatsoever. That's what Micah would have found out. These idols couldn't stop these men from taking them. They had to just go wherever they were taken. They had no power. They could not resist the will of these people from Dan, and they were stolen. These idols were powerless when it came to this particular circumstance. And that's what we find too. When we place other things above God in our lives, at some point in our lives, we're going to find that those things don't really fully deliver. And those things really, in and of themselves, have no power. They might give us temporary pleasure. They might give us temporary comfort. But when all is said and done, they really can't deliver anything for us. And they have no power in and of themselves. But then we also find that the people that we trust are unreliable. this man, this Levite that he had placed as his priest, that he thought, yeah, this is going to be a guy who's going to draw me close to God, and going to be kind of the intercessor between me and the Lord, became unreliable. And he allowed this Levite and used this Levite in a way that was unpleasing to the Lord. And it ended up not working out because he was forsaken by this very person. But then also we find when we replace God with other things, that we ourselves are powerless. We can't control life. Only God can control what's going on. Micah found himself powerless in front of these people from Dan, and we'll find ourselves powerless when it comes to the things of this world, when we forsake the Lord and when we replace the Lord and even try to perhaps duplicate and replicate what God has done, but in an improper way. We'll find that we don't really have strength in ourselves to carry on without the proper submission and trust placed in the Lord and fellowship in the Lord. So these two chapters, chapters 17 and 18 of Judges, ought to warn us against trying to build our own structures, trying to build things and construct things in our lives, trust in things and love things in our lives that conflict with God and run in competition with God in our hearts. And if we do involve ourselves in those things, we'll find that the things that we trust in are powerless, the people we trust in are powerless, and that we ourselves are powerless. And that's what we find from this story. So hopefully these things are helpful to you today. I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.